You're listening to Your Rivers Are Wrong, the podcast. My name is Merle. I'm here with my good friend Dante, and we're here to build worlds and tell their stories. So sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Good morning, or evening, or afternoon, whenever you may be. Welcome back to the Your Rivers Are Wrong podcast. I'm one of your hosts. My name is Dante.
And I'm the other one, and my name is Merle.
And we're here, as we are every week, to talk about the wonderful whimsies of world building, the arts and aesthetics of sitcom setting, and telling stories born from it.
Exactly.
This week is episode 21. Our podcast is finally old enough to do a lot of things, I think.
Like drinking? No. Yeah.
Yeah, is that a 20?
Drinking is age 21, right, in America? Or
yes,
no? Right.
It is, yes. And I don't know about anything else.
Good for us. The one thing that is of most important to many people. When you can drink alcohol, I guess.
All the other adult things were unlocked at 18 or at 21.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Fair.
Now, this week we have to update you guys on what we promised to update you on last week, which was after editing it and going through everything. It was definitely a whirlwind of events. Golly, should we start with the plans or the wallet?
I feel like the plan's less exciting, so we should end on like a banger.
Okay, sure.
Here's the update. It is alive and pretty good, so that's pretty great. That could be like much worse. Like, what if it died in a week? That would be awful.
Mm-hmm.
And there's coming a new leaf, and every day I'm looking at it so hard to see if it's pink or if it's just like the regular sort of dark green. And I want it to be pink so bad, but you can't rush it because if you like force it out earlier or if you kind of fiddle with it too much, it can, break or something. So you can't do that. So you can just stare at it and wish really hard. So I've been doing that for the last, 3 days or something.
Got it. So wait, you can see the leaf, but you can't tell what color it is?
Well, it's sort of wrapped up. So it starts at the stem of it and then it becomes like a sort of point and then it slowly unfolds into the new leaf. So now I know that the leaf is going to come there. Like the point is there, but you don't see the inside of the leaf yet.
It's like a baby reveal, but the slowest baby reveal.
It's like like a 4-day baby reveal. Exactly.
Okay.
So that's where I'm at. Maybe next week I will be able to disappoint you or excite you with the color of this baby leaf.
It's
baby
okay.
Leaf plant reveal.
The plant can be whatever it wants to be. It can be whatever color it wants to be when it's born. Okay, cool.
Fair enough.
Well, the other topic, my wallet, which I lost last week. So we recorded that the morning after I lost my wallet. So I was tracking it as I do with the tracker inside the wallet. Mm-hmm. And it took oh gosh, how much of the story did you guys know? So eventually I called right after the podcast. I called and they said, I think I explained this to you, but I didn't explain this to the people watching. Basically, I called and said, hey, I noticed you have my wallet thanks to the tracker inside. And I said, okay, so this is what it looks like, yada, yada. And they're like, oh, yeah, it's in front of us. It looks it has all of this in it. And I'm like, yes, that's exactly it. So can I come pick it up? And they said, well, thanks to COVID rules, you can't come to the depot. We don't allow guests or visitors. And I'm like, okay, so how will I get my wallet? And they say, well, we're going to send it to the main lost and found of the MTA. We're going to send it all the way to the city, which is a proper hour away. And you can pick it up then.
Wow.
And for me, that instead of traveling just 10 minutes to get to the depot, now I have to travel all the way to the city to grab it. And I'm like, okay, sure. So when are you sending it out? And they said, oh, they'll come pick it up tomorrow morning. So this is like Tuesday, right? And I'm like, okay, sure. That's inconvenient, but that's fine, right?
That's still doable.
I got a tracking number.
Legitimate scope. Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So come Wednesday, when they're supposed to send it out, I check my tracker. It's still at the depot. Okay, sure.
I love how you have like a sort of backdoor to this, and you're like, I don't trust these people.
Yeah, exactly.
You can spy on your own wallet.
Yeah. Thursday comes along. Still at the depot, and I'm like, are they gonna send it out? Like, are they just gonna hold on to it? What do they want my wallet for so long? Friday, it finally moves. I see it on my phone. It leaves the depot, and I'm like, well, I hope someone didn't steal it. So I'm watching it.
Yeah.
And the final point it gets stuck at is somewhere, for people who know the city of New York, in Brooklyn, which is not the city. It's like halfway there. it just stops there and I lose track of it.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, okay, so
Wow.
hopefully this isn't someone's house.
This is like a 3-act play at this point.
So it's Friday. I lost it on Monday. It's Friday, and it still technically hasn't gotten to the depot. So I'm like, okay, maybe I'll wait. When it shows up in Manhattan, I'll go get it, which is the city for people, not New York. Mm-hmm. On Saturday, I call. I'm like, hey, is this the city lost and found? They're like, yes. And I'm like, okay, so I know my wallet was found at the depot and was sent to you guys. Do you guys have it? I tell them like the number, and they're like, oh, well, that's the bag number, the number of the bag that it's in. Mm-hmm. And yeah, we have that. I'm like, okay, cool. Can I come pick it up? And they're like, well, the lost and found is closed today. You'll have to schedule an appointment. I'm like, okay,
awful.
Sure. When can I come? And they say, when are you free? I'm like, well, I could come Monday. And they're like, well, that's Memorial Day. That's the weekend. Nobody's there. I'm like, okay, Tuesday. Can I come Tuesday? And they're like, well, what time do you want to come? Oh, can I come as early as possible? They're like, well, that's kind of booked. I'm like, well, I have work, so can I any day that I could come as early as possible? And they're like, well, I guess you can come Tuesday. I'm like, why didn't you just tell me that in the first place? Why was there a hoop I had to jump through? So I'm coming. So I'm coming through today. Literally today. We're recording an hour early just so I can go get this wallet.
Yeah. You're like nice and rugged in your voice that's still like half sleepy.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it.
Nice.
Yeah, I appreciate morning voice is my best voice.
It's a good voice. Yeah.
Thank you. I feel like it's a compliment. And I'm going to go pick it up. I'll just go and I'll tell them my number and hopefully they'll have my wallet and hopefully nothing will be missing.
God,
it's been over a week.
All these people like have had it in their hands and stuff. And they're like, oh yeah. And all the while you can't use your cards and you don't have your identification.
The person I was speaking to had it in their hands and the first call on Tuesday. And it blew my mind that it takes a week to pick it up. But that's
a lot of like bureaucracy to like get it in your house.
So. It's wild.
It's like COVID stuff. Then do you have a lot of regulations still? Because with us, we're like completely off it. Like,
yeah, I mean, not really. A lot of the restrictions have lifted, but some places have just decided to like never open up again, I guess.
Oh,
because I'm guessing like if you were obviously the bus depot, if visitors come in with COVID, it screws up your entire workflow.
I mean, that makes sense. Yeah.
So I get it, but I'm also not going to come in and infect everybody. I just need to go to the front door and grab my wallet, but it's fine.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the update.
Okay. Progress.
Next week, hopefully it'll be simple.
I can't believe that it's still like not in your hands though. Like
no, it's not.
So much effort for just moving things back and forth.
Absolutely. I've been using one of my 7 spare wallets.
Oh, nice. Beautiful. Cool. Okay. This can be like a part of the podcast that we just continuously update people on our plants and wallets. The most interesting start of the podcast. Yeah.
If we have nothing else to say, we're going to be, so how's the plant?
We'll just revert to our like default plant and wallet conversation. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. Cool. Right now I'm using one of the spare 7 and it's working well. So it's not the same, obviously. Anyway, podcast. Let's talk about things.
Yes.
Every week we talk about one topic we each bring to the table. Mm-hmm. We don't know what each other's topics are, so it's kind of fun to discover what it will be. And of course, we end the podcast on a prompt.
Yes, that's true.
Are you ready for my topic? I think I'm starting this week.
I think you're starting. Yeah, let's go.
I don't know why I made a pose when I said my topic, but and you can't see it because this is all voice.
I was gonna say like I had no idea. Maybe it adds to like the aesthetic in your head of how you wanted to say it.
Yeah, sure. That's the logic. All right.
Let's go.
Well, my topic for this week, which is a pretty complex topic, but as we always do, we'll talk about it lightly. And if we need to revisit it, we certainly will. We talked about this during heroes and villains and flights. This is a topic we've talked about quite a bit in passing, but I do want to kind of highlight it.
Okay.
Today, I wanted to talk about superheroes. I wanted to talk about the high-flying, high-stakes, high-action heroes of today's era of cinema, very much so, as well as many TV series and, of course, the comic books of old and present. I love superheroes. I'm not going to mince words. There are countless heroes, more than I could ever know, and many that I have enjoyed since I was very, very young. Growing up, I've always leaned towards like watching anime and reading manga and all that stuff. But my favorite media from the American West animation was always superheroes. So for me, it was Static Shock, it was Teen Titans, a little bit of Young Justice in there, Batman Beyond, like Saturday morning cartoons. It was always Pokemon, there was maybe Yu-Gi-Oh, I guess. So that's my fill of anime. There was Cardcaptor.
Fair, yeah.
And then there was the American show, which was literally some sort of superhero. And
nice. That's a good, solid spread of things.
Yeah. I Sunday morning cartoons was a big thing for me, and I really it's not Sunday morning, Saturday morning. I'm sorry.
Love it.
Yeah. Did you grow up with watching any superheroes in particular? Did you have any favorites that stuck out to you?
I think that
kind of defined the genre.
Honestly, superheroes strangely have always had less of my interest. Maybe partly because I was always like not catching the superhero things on TV. Like they were always at the wrong time slots. But I do remember, I don't know if that's a superhero thing. Like it's not part of the classic superheroes, but I feel like I did really love the My Life as a Teenage Robot cartoon.
Oh, actually,
did you see that one?
Yeah.
That's kind of a vibe.
That's fair, yeah.
And then I feel like aside from that, I've only recently sort of dabbled more into that, like the She-Ra animation, which I think had an equivalent in like the 1980s that was like pretty basic, and then they revamped it into a very cool, interesting cartoon that's very like recent now on Netflix. I think it has like 5 seasons or something. It's pretty intense and super good. So that was really like, I think my latest fill of superhero content that I really, really enjoyed. So I don't really have like the traditional, so you need to educate me on this, Dante. I'm not as well learned if we're talking in superhero lore as you are.
If we're talking like traditional superheroes, that's like Gilgamesh, Hercules. That's like old,
sure, yeah,
divined by God with powers beyond understanding sort of deal.
Right, yeah.
Superheroes as a concept, obviously. There's going to be people who are listening to this podcast who know way more about superheroes than I do.
Sure.
I'm only a recent like learner. I didn't actually grow up with comic books too much.
Oh, okay.
Besides, of course, manga, but that doesn't count. I kind of really want to focus in on like
different genre from superhero comics, I feel.
Yeah. I kind of really want to focus in on the Western comics, the Marvel, the DC, that sort of field. And kind of just discuss the appeal and what kind of stories can be told, kind of the flow chart of superheroes and like how it lends itself to storytelling. Like what's so unique about it that makes it so interesting? Besides like the capes and the tights and the and the fancy muscle. Funny names and all the muscles. Oh, the comics have so much muscle.
These people have so much muscle. They're like,
if there's anyone who knows anatomy, I can't speak for all comic book artists. Not all of them are perfect, but boy, they really focused in on the physique.
I mean, obviously, that's where the cool comes in, right? Isn't that like part of the sell? I feel like that's part of the sell.
That's fair. Yeah, it's definitely the person you put on the cover who really sells the whole comic. Absolutely. So the structure of a superhero, or at least the modern superhero within the last 50 years, follows for most of them, follows a pretty simple flow chart. It kind of starts with explaining the superpower. So that's how they got it, whether they started as an ordinary person and became a superhero from happenstance, whether they were born with it, some great lineage, some great promise that was trusted to them to take on a great responsibility, or whether they're just super smart and created their superpower out of a test tube, you know?
Oh, right. Yeah. I feel like a lot of it is actually like pretty sci-fi. I don't think I realized that. Like,
yeah, that's fair.
The sort of origin stories. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like they're either sort of invented or, you know, in a weird sort of, oh, a spider bit me and it's a virus and now I have cool spider powers.
Yeah.
You know, that's all pretty like out there in terms of like science fiction. That fits the bill, I guess.
You know, that's a really interesting question, because if I had to slot in superhero stories between sci-fi and fantasy, I guess sci-fi is the way to go.
Yeah, right? I also lean more to sci-fi. Maybe also because it's more of a city kind of aesthetic to it.
Modern. Absolutely.
Yeah, modern, bustling kind of streets and I don't know.
Yeah. So the introduction of the superpower is obviously important. And then following that is the call to action or the realization of responsibility.
Right.
So they kind of have this period where if it's a new power, they're testing their powers, testing the limits of it, what they can and can't do. Every now and then when they're doing this, it's kind of the great event that starts it. Either they overuse their powers and something goes wrong, or they realize that having these powers means that they have to be responsible and use it for the greater good.
Right.
Once that happens, you know, there's a little bit of the time to give myself a name, a title, let people recognize who I am, but not too much.
Yeah.
You know?
There's like the whole branding aspect to it.
They're trying on like super suits and
I was gonna say like this is like the
names.
montage scene where they have like the gloves and then they do the belt and then they do like the shoes and stuff.
Yeah, and there's like heroic music.
And they walk out very confidently.
Swelling up in the background. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I love there was a scene in Static Shock. Static Shock is my favorite animated superhero. That's the one I watched for 3, 4, 5 years when I was young.
Oh, okay. So fill me in on this because I have no idea what this is.
Oh, okay. So it was an episode on Kids WB, at least where I grew up.
Oh, okay.
And it was about a teenager in some great urban city. I don't know if it was Chicago or New York. You know, it always takes place in one of those two.
Uh-huh.
And Static Shock was a kid named Virgil, and he was part of we call it the Big Bang, I think, which is basically a bunch of rival gangs rival gangs in the neighborhood met up at this one warehouse that blew up and spewed like toxic fumes everywhere. And that's basically what poisoned a whole lot of people and gave them errant superpowers.
Ah, okay.
Virgil wasn't part of the gang at all. He was just kind of on site due to circumstances. And he was a bang baby. That's what they call all the people who were born that day as superheroes or supervillains.
Right. Okay.
And he had the power of electricity, you know? So
that's pretty cool.
When he realized it, obviously there was this phase of testing out the powers, testing his limits. He had a really smart friend who helped him set everything up. There was one scene that I can't forget where he's like going in and out of his closet, trying on different suits and like spitting out different catchphrases. And his friend was like, nope, doesn't fly. Nope, don't do that one. Nope, nope. And then they finally settle on one.
It's like a makeover scene. That's great.
Yeah, it's super funny. Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
I love it.
And he learns like how to fly, how to deal with all the people at that event who decided to be villains. Like obviously there are more villains than heroes in a situation where there's like rival gangs fighting, you know?
Right.
And he kind of has to iron out his own personal life against his superhero persona. And he slowly gains more reputation and meets other heroes in the league. Like eventually he meets members of the Justice League and he's like the youngest one. So he has to kind of prove himself and all that. There's a crossover with like
cool.
Batman Beyond. Yeah, it was a very cool episode. But anyway, so I kind of want to tap into why superhero stories are so interesting. Why do a lot of people love them? What separates them from the classical hero story? And why they've become such a brand, such a powerful. Yeah, it's a
very specific genre at this point. Yeah,
like a powerful sell. Like you could probably block out like a fifth of the most highest grossing movies in today's era as just superhero movies.
Yeah, it's
not
gotta
just
be
fantasy,
yeah.
Not just fiction. Superhero.
Yeah.
In your opinion, I suppose, like, what's the appeal of a superhero story? Why do we like gravitate towards these sort of things? Like, what's the appeal of it as like readers of comic books, watch TV shows, movies, things like that?
Well, I feel like it starts kind of with what you were saying already, like the whole transformation thing, the fact that they start as regular human beings and then something happens and they turn into this, I guess, superhuman, right? I think that's very interesting because then it's instantly relatable, not in terms of like, oh yeah, I've had a spider bit me and got spider powers before, but like in the way of, oh, they started out normal. Like they have to deal with the consequences of something that just randomly happened or occurred or that they made themselves or something. I think that's what would interest me most about it. So the fact that they started as every other kind of person and then suddenly had this thing happen to them. I feel like that comes back in the environment as well, like what we talked earlier, like the fact that it's a modern setting, which is again like relatable, and the only thing that's not relatable is I guess the burden of responsibility and, you know, the literal powers, right?
Of course.
But that's a very interesting question. I do really like that sort of with power comes great responsibility, or what was the phrase? Yeah. I think that's an interesting mechanic or an interesting sort of question at the base of all these stories that you're going to do. I also think the fact that because they have this transformation or they have suddenly much more than they had before, the power also feels very intense. It's not like they've been born with this or that this is like part of the world building that you just need to assume is normal in this world, right? As with most fantasy stories.
Absolutely, yeah.
And the fact that they are this sort of rarity because they have this is pretty interesting and makes them a fascinating character, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. There is this kind of, I think there's two facets to it, right? There is kind of why Spider-Man in particular became so incredibly popular. It's exactly that line, with great power comes great responsibility. One of the biggest things about the appeal of a superhero story is relatability. If the person on the cover cannot connect to the people reading, then they won't be invested. They won't be invested in their path or their growth, where they go.
Exactly.
So Spider-Man starts off with literally a normal kid, pretty smart, I guess, in his own right, but a pretty normal guy gaining these powers and, not immediately going full scale fighting like aliens and super world changing creatures. He's just the neighborhood Spider-Man. His aspirations are literally to his own block.
Yeah.
Because he realizes that like with the power that he's gained, he suddenly has the power to change. So he should. His morality kind of comes into play. Like it's kind of that self-realization that when a superhero has these powers and becomes someone we can root for, someone who like we want them to do well, we want them to succeed. That's kind of the major appeal of watching their lives play out. And there's also, of course, like the power fantasy. Like, what would you do if you had these powers? Well, if you read this comic, this is what happens,
Yeah, exactly. Also, we shouldn't overlook the sort of basic need of, people that love to have powers.
Yes, exactly.
I should maybe specify like kids of like 10-year-old that are like, I can fly now, and they just pretend. And then there's a series that actually does that. And that's great because then you can live it out, see like the sort of better thought out version than your own make-believe play of that thing, right?
A professional writer that's awesome. And all that. Yeah.
A professional rendering of your own like flying fantasy. Yeah, that's great.
Exactly.
That's also very much part of the appeal. Like, how cool is it if you have like electricity powers? That's super wild.
Yeah.
I don't know how that would be practical at all, but it's very cool. It's a super cool aesthetic. That's very important too, with all these kind of powers and suits. And, there's a big visual interest also there.
Yeah. And you're starting to realize like that umbrella of superhero over the years, easily over the past century, there's been hundreds of superpowers, right? So many superhero stories, and each one has a different power, a different story, different villains, different like plot lines, problems, like obstacles, depending on like what power they have. The writer and illustrator have to make it interesting, right?
Yeah.
They have to pick out a power. First, it has to be interesting to look at. They can't be like Calendar Man, which is a real supervillain. Pulls up the power.
Excuse me? Also Calendar Man?
Calendar Man. He makes calendar themed jokes. And he is dangerous enough to have like half of a chapter dedicated to him.
But what does he do? He just makes jokes? Question. That's his power?
No, I'm going to look it up. Calendar Man is a real thing. I'm not imagining this. Calendar Man from Batman. Julian Gregory Day, better known as Calendar Man, is known for committing themed crimes that corresponded with holidays and significant dates.
That's so stupid. Wow.
So I guess on specific holidays, he like does themed crimes.
Okay,
so, like,
cool.
I guess on Thanksgiving, he'd like attack with a giant turkey or something along those lines. I'm not going to go deep into it. This is kind of ridiculous. But yeah, that's a villain, obviously.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, I'd read a comic. I'd read a chapter about Calendar Man. I'm going to be honest with you. I'd want to see what's up. But a lot of the appeal, especially to me, is like in a Teen Titans setting where there's a bunch of superheroes and they all have unique powers. And you get to see how their specific talents overlap and complement each other or don't complement each other.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah.
The sort of combo kind of scenarios.
Yeah, and it's, the classic hero party where they all have different strengths and they can complement each other. And their backstories are slowly revealed over time and, they deal with it as a team rather than as a grief-stricken individual, things like that.
Yeah. I have to say part of, as we're talking about this, I also think part of the appeal to me is the fact that everyone has a power in this team setting that you're on, right?
Sure.
Like a lot of the times in novels or in stories, I should say, there's one person of the team that has more powers or has a legacy or a hero's journey, right? And then there's supporting people that are also part of the team and equally interesting characters if it's a good story, but they're not as powerful. And that's very different in like a superhero Teen Titans, I guess, kind of version where everyone has an asset that contributes to the team, right?
Right.
I think it's similar to the way that I personally love the sort of assembly prior to like spy movies. Like they get together the team and everyone has their own, like you have the assassin and you have the spy and you have the forgery person and you have the computer hacker guy. And then they're all sort of doing their own sort of professional, amazing skills as part of the team. I think that's also a big appeal.
Of course.
Because everyone has the specific talent or skill that adds to the sort of coolness of the group.
Now, that's exactly it. You take that, right? But you give every single one of those superheroes their own separate movie. and you let them build up their story that way. And then you pull them all together in a singular movie called The Avengers. And you pull together like the last, those 6 or 7 films released by the studio. And you get to see all of these individual stories and personalities clash like upon meeting. And like they realize where they stand amongst each other. To pull off a feat like The Avengers, what is it? Gosh, I can't remember. The movie with Ultron, the Infinity War series, which is pulling from 13 different movies and an assembled like cast of 25 to 30 powerful people.
That's so much lore.
Grabbing all of them and making sure they all play a part and are relevant and like involved. And you get to see like 10 years of effort culminated into a singular film, and watching all these famous A-tier actors just talk and discuss things amongst each other. Oh, it's crazy.
That's awesome. Yeah.
It's so carefully crafted. And I could go into like how Marvel had like also only a small handful of masterminds to pull that all together, because that's incredibly difficult, to make multiple successful movies and pull it into a successful like collab.
How did this start off though? Like I have so little knowledge of like Marvel movies. So fill me in on this. The Avengers movie, is that sort of a thing that culminated from the separate movies? Like, was it always the plan, or I guess in the comics or something, to eventually let them come together and fight the, I guess, great evils of the world? Or was it like, oh, the Avengers is there. Oh, we can actually make more movies out of this because all these characters are interesting. And then they made the other movies also.
So in theory, so it's a little complicated. In theory, it starts with The Incredible Hulk. The Incredible Hulk had 2 movies.
Okay.
And they were good. They weren't mind-blowing. But the real start to the plan, I suppose, was the first movie of Iron Man. Iron Man is played by Robert Downey Jr. He builds his first suit. He pulls it all together. And then I believe, was that the end of that movie? I think it was the end of that movie. They introduced Samuel L. Jackson's character, like after the famous after credits scene.
Okay.
Samuel L. Jackson, playing Nick Fury, puts a pamphlet in front of Iron Man and says, I'd like to recruit you for the Avengers Initiative. So in the comics, this is a story that was written 20, 30 years ago. Iron Man is part of a team of superheroes that fight the forces of evil together, something like that. So that was the Marvel creative team deciding that this character would be part of a series of movies, and they were going to slowly assemble that team of heroes over the course of the next 3 to 4 years. So that's the Captain America movie, the Thor movie.
That's pretty epic. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't actually know if there's any more. So for the first Avengers film, it was Captain America, Thor, Iron Man, Hulk, which pulls from the Incredible Hulk series with the new actor, Black Widow, who was introduced in a Iron Man movie, Iron Man 2, and then Hawkeye, which was a new character introduced. So that team of 6 was the original Avengers. They pull off this movie, combining these 3, like at this point, 4 to 5 different movies, combining it into one singular film. They beat the great evil, and the story continues. Every single movie is planned with the next movie in mind, which is,
that's pretty wild.
Yeah, which is tricky when sometimes you got to sacrifice a bit of the story to make sure the story continues. Like there's never a conclusive end to any Marvel movie because it always leaves room to continue, which
that's pretty epic. Like, how much planning does that take? Like, that sounds
an
like
incredible amount of
Avatar, not Avatar The Last Airbender, but the like Blue People, James Cameron Avatar movie series where he has like years in the making and nobody knows what it's up to. But then 10 years later, there's a new movie or something. Wild.
Because every single superhero that comes out, because now it's been 11, 12 years running, they've had 20 films, like 20 plus films in the same universe.
Ridiculous.
Every superhero has to be factored in. Well, how are they going to play into future movies? What other superheroes can they collab with? Like, what delicate storyline can we play with the characters that we have?
So meta. Like, you're constantly also zooming out into the sort of grand. Yeah, I guess that's what they call like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, right?
Exactly. So it's
combination of all the movie lore and stuff combined.
Yeah, it's been a very slow burn, but now they could just produce a Disney Plus series and movies en masse,
That's a good business model also. Like, that's very successful if it works. It was well, I guess.
Yeah, it was incredibly well done. And it chalks it up to the direction of the original directors and the original core, which was Robert Downey Jr., Steve, Chris Evans, and what is his name? Gosh, Chris Hemsworth. Is kind of just the people who started off this whole thing. But anyway, that's the appeal. Superheroes, high-flying action, exciting. Smaller story of realizing your humanity in a moment, realizing the greater responsibility, and meeting villains, colorful characters along the way that you collab with and team up with, and fulfill this power fantasy that everybody kind of dreams about.
Yeah.
I love it. I really do.
Honestly, now that I've talked about it and understand a little bit more why this is a thing that people watch all the time, I'm like more interested. So I might check it out now. I know that Taika Waititi, who's the actor and part director of the Our Flag Means Death, beautiful, wonderful pirate series that we discussed earlier in our Pirates episode, that he directed a new Thor movie, I think, which was like super well received and weird and quirky in like the best Taika Waititi kind of way. So I might get into that like backdoor there. Maybe.
That's actually a really interesting situation. I don't want to go into much on a tangent, but basically Thor...
Tiny tangent, yeah.
Thor has 3 movies and the 4th one's coming out soon. The first 2 movies were directed by somebody else, and for all intents and purposes, they were kind of boring. They weren't my favorite.
Yeah, I heard about
Thor
that.
was treated very seriously as a, basically an alien god from another realm. And then the 3rd movie comes around, directed by Taika Waititi, and he puts like a humorous spin on the character. He allows Thor to be a little bit funnier, a little bit more jovial.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right. Yeah. Love that.
Give him kind of that energy that makes him like a little bit more off kilter and fun. And that kind of breathed new life into it. Chris Hemsworth like really appreciated just having a more fun, less serious character and allowed him to show his strengths as an actor. And it was so Thor 3, I think Thor Ragnarok was probably my favorite of the series and one of my favorite movies of the MCU because it's just so funny.
Nice. But, I love that. I love when they also like don't take themselves so seriously. That's pretty hard to pull off, specifically in like a 3rd movie in like a series of a cinematic universe with lore and everything connected to it.
Yeah, it is kind of hard to jump into, but I would recommend starting at the start, which is just Iron Man 1, Captain America 1, Thor 1, into Avengers. And that's pretty much all you need for the first movie. Those 4 is kind of a bundle series. But
Okay. I might get into it. You got to put it in the like recommendations.
I'll throw it in our recommended.
I'm more on the fence now, which is good. That's a very good thing.
That's good. Yeah.
Because I mean, I will think about it more. Yeah. Love it.
That's all I had.
Cool.
Actually, before we end this, small plug for tabletop RPG called Masks, A New Generation. It's basically a superhero. I'm not sponsored by them, but I wish I was. Made by the same people who made the new Avatar RPG. They also basically Masks is a story where in the tabletop RPG you play as a superhero, a young superhero who still goes to school. All of your classmates are also superheroes. And you kind of have to grapple with this world that is accepting or adopting superheroes into society. I would love to play it someday, but
that's pretty cool.
I probably got to DM it first. It's very.
Do you have
fun.
like classes or something? Do you know that, or can you just sort of?
I think there's like adventure modules that have like set stories, but you can always make your own. Every player has to play their own superhero, and they have to have their strengths, and
Yeah, we got to play it. Maybe we'll do like a mini thing of it or something.
Sure,
that could be fun.
All right. Jump into the next topic. I believe that you have something to bring today.
I was going to say, this is the most perfect match of topics that we've done so far, I feel.
I feel like you say that every time.
Is it though?
I mean, I feel like you always have...
Not every time.
You're really good at transitioning. You're always like, speaking of blank, this is how it relates to my topic.
Well, I mean, this one is almost too good to be true. Like, this one is hard to not transition into smoothly. Because what I wanted to talk about is animal sidekicks. And I think it's literally the perfect B-side to this A-side conversation of superheroes.
Specific. I love it.
I mean, yeah, I don't know how that happened, but I guess great minds think alike, right?
Yeah, let's talk.
No, I wanted to just have a little light chat on specifically animal sidekicks or familiars, which is another word for it. I got reminded of this specific kind of character because I think a few months back or something, or half a year back, I'm not sure, I watched Sakura Cardcaptor.
I just brought that up.
Yeah, right. And I didn't know at all that was a series. I hadn't heard of it at all. And then half a year ago, a good friend of me, Cherry,
shout out to Cherry,
was like, this is my all-time... Hi, Cherry. I know she listened to this podcast, so that's very great. But she was like, this is the greatest series. It's basically what for you was Wings Club was for me Sakura Cardcaptor. So I was like, okay, I guess we got to watch it now. So we watched, I think, like the first 10 episodes or something, and it was super quirky and cute. And then, obviously, in that series, there's like a very specific animal sidekick there. And I had to look up their name because I forgot about it, but it's sort of...
Oh, Keroberos.
Yeah, exactly. And it's sort of... Maybe it doesn't even matter. It's sort of a mouse, cat, teddy bear with wings. Well,
it transforms into like the griffin lion-looking thing, right?
Oh, is it? I mean, maybe I don't know. Been that much into the series, but sure.
What series are you watching? Are you watching the new one that came out or the very old one?
No, like the super classic one, I think.
Oh,
the one that still looked a bit crappy.
It looked great for its time. I love
Yeah. But that one was like, I really started to sort of remember again how much animal sidekicks are a thing, like are a trope or a specific character. And I think very often they're very funky, but they have a very specific limited role in a series, right? It's this specific thing. Every Disney movie has it, like the whole Rapunzel has her, like, what's it called? Like the chameleon.
Yeah.
Pocahontas has, what's it called? Like the hummingbird and stuff. And almost every Disney princess has some sort of an animal sidekick for some reason. And of course, it's a very useful thing for franchises because it sells the toys, right?
Exactly. That's a big reason.
Yeah, for sure. But then I do wonder how we can sort of optimize the function of a sidekick or of an animal sidekick.
Of course.
There's a lot of screen time involved with like animal sidekicks. So aside from selling the toys, like I just want to sort of throw the question to you. What do you think they contribute to a story, or why would we want them in a story?
Yeah, of course. Just a very quick aside on that note. I have a theory that Moana, the series Moana, the movie Moana, has the rooster, of course, as the animal sidekick, but also has the pig as the animal sidekick. And I believe, because the chicken was, for all intents and purposes, more important to the story.
Sure,
He's the only one on the boat, right? Is the primary animal sidekick, but they Disney realized
I love where
that
there's like hierarchy now, but you're right. Yeah.
Disney realized they couldn't really sell plushies of the chicken. It's not a very like huggable creature.
Not very likable, yeah.
So
it's
they
a bit like the
included
crazy
the pig
animal, yeah.
They included the pig as well. That's my ongoing theory. I believe that the pig was there to sell merch,
Deep dive,
be very cute, but the rooster was the real keystone to the story, of course, naturally. Anyway, the role of a animal sidekick is obviously just to be, first and foremost, just to be cute, just to be adorable.
Very important. Yes.
If
we love to watch
main
cute
character,
animals.
yeah, if the main character isn't like adorable enough to appeal to a certain demographic of the audience, we can have this little cute thing helping them out. And also specifically on the topic of card captors, love that series.
Oh, fun.
Yeah,
cool.
I watched it on some Saturday morning cartoons, and then I watched the whole thing later when I was older in the Japanese version. So I saw it from beginning to end, which was wonderful.
Great. Yeah.
By the way, the same characters, Sakura and what's his name, Xiaoran?
The guy?
Xiaoran?
Sure.
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
Also feature in another series by the same publishers, Clamp. The series is called Tsubasa Chronicles, where
really?
they pull characters from every Clamp series that they've made before. Very much very MCU like.
I was going to say,
that's
literally the Avengers movies, but I guess anime version.
Yeah, alternate characters are pulled in from other series. So Xiaoran is actually the main character in that series. He's on a quest to fix a curse that was put onto Sakura. That she's kind of immobile, and he goes on this great adventure with other characters to traverse different Clamp worlds, and it's very nice. And eventually he does meet the actual card captor Sakura and Xiaoran, which is a beautiful moment. But
that's pretty cool. Yeah.
Anyway, animal sidekicks. I keep getting on a tangent.
That's okay.
Yeah. Cerberus or Kerberos, whatever you want to call him, is kind of the intro, right? He's the mentor to Sakura. He teaches her how to be a hero, how to use her powers, what she needs to do, what's her responsibility.
Yeah, for sure.
He serves the purpose of explaining like what to do, like explaining what her tasks are.
Yeah.
To not only herself, but the audience. You know, the audience is introduced to this greater plot line thanks to him being available to teach. Right.
Yeah.
I feel like that's one of the biggest things, especially in anime. I feel like anime does that quite a lot, where the animal sidekick is smart, has a bigger role.
So too. Yeah.
Often tasked with some incredible responsibility, despite their small size. They have quite a bit tasked to them in terms of like leading the protagonist in the direction they should go.
Yeah, that's actually pretty true. I didn't really realize that, because in all the other, I guess non-Asian kind of media, they're mostly just there for cuteness. They're very little plot device characters, right? I mean, sometimes, but then it's just, oh, look at them contributing. And then that's also about the cuteness. So yeah. So maybe they're even like more developed in the anime kind of realm versus in, the classic Disney movies almost.
Well, they usually kind of talk. I think that's a big thing. Like they have conversations with the main character. Is that
just the main difference? Maybe it is, yeah.
Right? I feel like if they talk, they're smart. I feel like that's the general gist, right?
Yeah. I think that's the sort of logical step that we're taking. Yeah. That's interesting, because then you also have the in-between that's kind of Pokemon, which of course is a different kind of vibe. That's not just the animal sidekicks, but they do kind of talk, even though it's just like the noise of what their name is. Yeah, but they have like when they say like angry Pikachu or when they say happy Pikachu. Like it sounds different. That feels a bit more like talking than just, lion noises.
Yeah, there's a big difference between Pika P and Pika Pichu,
Exactly. Yeah.
Actually,
know your Pikas. Yeah.
That's another tangent. I think someone figured out that Pika P means Ash or stands for Ash. So whenever Pikachu calls out for Ash in particular, they say Pika P. Like that's a proper phrase.
That's such
it's
a
never
deep
just
dive.
Pika or P,
See,
but,
language. There we go.
But if you're looking for a closer animal sidekick, right, you can go look at Digimon, which is just, the neighbor to Pokemon.
Oh, yeah. What's that again? Oh, yeah. The Pokemon sort of similar kind of series.
Yeah. Digital world. They meet all these creatures and they talk, and you only ever have one Digimon. I'm sure there's an exception out there, but every Digi-Destined, I think it's called, has one Digimon that follows them around, and that's their animal sidekick,
Right.
So, but yeah. So does one like stick out to you in particular? Is there like an animal sidekick that has led to this topic in particular?
Well, not particularly one, but I do think it's interesting to think about animal sidekicks in the cutest kind of Disney selling toys kind of way versus the more classical approach to this, which would be, I guess, a witch's familiar or a wizard's familiar, right? The sort of raven on the shoulder of the evil witch character, which is very much also an animal sidekick in a way, but then it's completely not linked to this sort of cuteness that for me has the connotation of, when there's an animal sidekick around. Right. And I think that's pretty interesting. I feel like if we talk about familiars in a sort of witchcraft kind of setting, it's very much more the idea of other types of creatures communicating with this person, which makes it feel more eerie or maybe more distant from like humanity in a way, which is a complete different kind of topic. But then that's still very closely linked in the way of like, in some cases they're smart or they're helping out their, I guess, owner, or how do you call that? I don't know, their boss. Yeah, summoner. Depends on the lore, I guess. But yeah, or they're part of spells or they're part of rituals or they sort of look out like they're the eyes of the witch character. Right. They see someone coming and they caw and then they're like, danger's afoot, or the heroes arrive. We can prep for my evil monologue, right?
Right.
So it serves this very different function. And that's also what I found pretty interesting, that there's a pretty big divide in these two versions of an animal sidekick.
Yeah. You know what I'm realizing as you're talking about this? I feel something kind of key to the familiar is that it's a reflection of the main character's true self, I suppose. A lot of Disney movies.
That's a good take on it. Yeah.
Yeah. In a lot of I think in Disney movies, you could safely say it. The familiar takes one personality aspect of the main character and just kind of amplifies it. There's a really cutesy side or a really mischievous side, or the evil character always has to have a snake or a raven or a frog, like something specifically menacing. Like if imagine like you were a Disney princess, but your familiar was like a snake. Like
that would be, I would watch that movie. That's an interesting take. I like that.
It'd have to be really cute though, because if it's kind of spicy and evil, then
I mean, that's
the
fair.
audience will be like,
I mean, they can make
strange
any animal cute, I feel.
Yeah.
They've also had frogs and stuff. Like they have to make the frogs cute because frogs are not like the most pretty animals that I would want like on my shoulder every day. In comparison to like bunnies or stuff.
Mm-hmm. But also like animal sidekicks serve the purpose of like actual sidekicks, as they're like,
yeah, they do actually help out.
Yeah, like so, and they're also like someone the main character can talk to or like express their emotions towards, like a listener, someone who could listen to their problems, if not like talk back, Yeah,
that's true. Perhaps it's even sometimes the other way. Like if the raven doesn't talk back, at least I can explain my evil plan to the raven, and then the audience also knows the evil plan.
Right.
Which is another, that functions for the story, I guess. So that makes sense.
It's like
it's companionship,
like,
I guess. Yeah,
like Scar with the hyenas in Lion King.
Oh yeah,
where
exactly.
He's detailing his evil plan to overthrow.
Yeah, or when he talks to the rat that is like his dinner or something, and it's just playing with it, even though he's going to eat it soon. And he's like, "Oh, I'm so bored. I wish people would appreciate me."
Yeah,
he's so bitey, honestly.
What a drama queen. Yeah,
I mean, he has black fur. Like, how much more drama queen do you want it?
Listen, if you're born, right, and your parents give you the name Scar, before you're actually scarred, right?
You're destined for like tragedy life.
Yeah. I don't know if Scar had like another name before he got his scar, but
is it a nickname? I'm not sure.
I don't know. I don't know if they ever say, or they ever detail that. We'll have to go to like the original folklore behind the movie.
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that and they kind of animal familiars kind of serve a purpose of bringing a cutesy side to everything, of course, being merchandisable, being a guide, I guess, a point of reference in terms of like morality. I feel like the familiars are never the evil one, right? They're never the source of malice.
I mean, they can be evil, but they're never the source. Yeah, that's the difference, I guess. Because the main evil should be the actual human character. Yeah, I like that. Showcasing the deeper sides of a character that are not at the surface in the animal companion. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, there are, I can't say that always, because there's always exceptions, right? There's some anime out there where the animal companion kind of introduces the main character to like a dangerous game. Like,
sure.
Welcome to what is it, Battle Royale? I'm your friendly neighborhood host, Murder. Please come this way, and I'll teach you the ways. That sort of thing. But that's not the standard. I think they're just meant to be lovable, right?
Yeah, that's a good conclusion. I feel like that's important in general in characters, but specifically in animal companions that need to also sell toys, by the way.
Yeah.
And
wasn't it Wreck-It Ralph, where the sequel where the all the princesses were like, if you're a princess, you have to have an animal companion.
Oh yeah, where they did the meta like scene where they commented on the princesses.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Okay.
So if there's not an animal companion in your story, you're doing something wrong.
You listen, to have a successful story, above having a great plot line and great characters and a riveting drama scene, you have to have merch, right?
Obviously.
You gotta have the merch.
How else are you going to sell your beautiful, interesting story? Then through animal companions.
And with beautiful. That, I suppose we'll move to our prompt.
Sure.
Perfect transition. Actually kind of relevant. We can go in this direction, but not necessarily. I have a prompt for you. Are you ready to hear it?
Yes, bring it on.
Okay. As always, we conclude our podcast with a prompt, improvised story based on a singular sentence or two. Here is your prompt. It's a little bit specific, so it might be a little tricky to start, but I think you'll get into it.
Sure.
Pretend we're at a board meeting. Your prompt for today is to pitch me a slice of life sitcom.
Okay.
Centered around two...
Already specific, yeah.
Very specific.
Sure. Yeah, keep going.
Centered around two characters where their superpowers only work when they're together. That's the full pitch.
Oh, God. Okay. A slice of life sitcom with two superpower people that only work their superpowers if they're together. Or can work their superpowers together.
Very niche audience.
Very niche, but okay. This is an interesting take, though. Let me think. Okay, so here's the two main characters.
You got it already? All right.
I'm going as I go. Bear with me.
I'm listening.
Let's say our first character is a young girl, maybe like teens, that kind of age, and she has always been fascinated by the weather. She's been into big storms, life-threatening tsunamis. That's been like her jam. She's super enamored by it almost. Always wants to go outside. She can't sit inside and stay still for 1 second. She always needs to be around nature and weather. And she's figured out for some reason that I'm not sure of, maybe it was like a lightning strike that hit her and her veins became super crazy. And I don't know. How do superpowers work like that? Sure, let's go.
Yeah, something like that.
And she realized that she can, with, I guess, the power of hand movements or, like sort of grabbing in the air in a certain way, she can control weather patterns, or specifically storms and the lightning that comes with it. And she's figured this out on her own. She's been always a bit of the weird kid, but also the kids that at some point realized that she had this power found her very cool and wanted to be around her. So she's been doing okay. And she, maybe during her, as I'm literally thinking out loud, during her like college years, she's been like going through life doing, aside from this crazy power that she has and the annoyance of being in classrooms all the time, she's been through college, has done some shit, gained some friends. And at some point, she shares a room with a new roommate. Her old roommate moves away or something, and a new roommate comes in. And this is a guy, let's say, and he has been very much, is more of a darker character. She's been like super happy-go-lucky, let's chill, kind of hippie vibes, sure, because she's a nature person, let's go. Yeah, sure, she's the classic flower girl. She's having a good life. She's pretty optimistic. Then this guy comes in and he's, a nice guy, but they don't really know each other. And every time they meet in their common room or in their shared kitchen or something, she realizes that he has trouble sort of controlling his muscles or something.
Okay.
In the way of like, I'm thinking kind of electricity powers or sort of, the static in the air that he's very sensitive to. Maybe sort of the ether or something that happens when storms occur is that the air, I guess, is kind of loaded with this static electricity.
Got it.
I'm not
so his hair's always up, I'm assuming.
This is not science. This is just my brain thinking that's how storms work. Don't pin me down on this. It's a superhero sitcom.
We're gonna get angry emails from meteorologists saying, "Excuse me, your prompt."
I mean, literally, one of my friends has parents that are both meteorologists, so
don't let them listen.
I feel like I should know this, but no. I'll just this will be the secret episode.
Yeah.
Okay. So they meet and they realize that they have a very specific kind of impact or spark between them, quite literally.
Wow. Okay.
And that's pretty cool. So he realizes that when he's in her proximity, because she has this influence on storms or lightning specific, weather situations.
Okay.
He sort of realizes that he is very sensitive to these types of static electricity. So he realizes that electricity is maybe kind of his thing. And they figure out because she's like out of the closet superhero. And he's like, I'm not sure what this is. While. Yeah, right. She's known for a while and she's been out there and everybody knows that this is kind of her thing or her powers. So she's been, she's more of a veteran than he is. And he's like, what's this thing I'm feeling in my hands? And suddenly I have this specific. And she's like, oh, yeah, I guess you're also a superhero then. And he's like, what? And then they have to figure this out together. And he's like super, not strong-willed, but like he's very stuck in his ways. Right? Of course. So he's like, but I'm a college student. This is not how I need to be like on parties and I need to do like the regular college things. And she's like, you'll be fine. I also do this. Let's just figure this out. And he's like, I don't know if I want to. And then they forcefully bond because they're the only ones at their school, in the city, in the world, whatever.
Oh, gosh.
That have this. And he needs to learn from what she's already learned through the years. And then it's a sitcom.
We love that.
And every episode, they learn something new together.
Oh, I think it's one of those. I think like the dark brooding character is not usually the one who has to learn, which is a nice twist.
That's true. That's true.
I like that it's like the well established, well put together like girl.
Maybe he comes from like a dark past or from a shitty situation. And he's worked really hard to like get into the most regular. He's very ready to be like the most boring student. He almost wants to be like the most regular college student, right?
Listen, I came here for a degree in finance.
I don't need all this magic and electricity around me. That's going to make me awfully like unconventional. Yeah, exactly.
Oh gosh, I'm going to stick out so much. Why are you doing this to me? They have that obvious spat. It's like everything that happened that's wrong is because of you. It's when you came along kind of thing,
Yeah.
But then he's going to realize that his powers are like out of control and she's not around. It's all that whole, they kind of
need each other. Exactly.
Classic. Okay. If you could think of any, who would you cast for each of the parts? Assuming they're like the proper age and not 40, 50. You can cast the younger version selves if you'd really like to.
Okay. I feel like the girl with storm powers should be that girl from, I forgot her name, but the one that played Rue in the Hunger Games. I feel like she's a good vibe. What's her name? I think Amanda something.
Amanda Stenberg.
Oh, right. Yeah. Amanda
Stenberg. With an L.
She's a good vibe. I realize now that I think I used one of her like snapshot as inspiration for one of my D&D characters.
Awesome.
She was like part of the vibe.
That's so great.
Yeah. But she has a good sort of careless kind of feel to her that I like. And for the guy, I'm not sure. Let me think on this. It should be like someone that's like a serious movie actor. You know what I mean? Or serious actor. But I'm not sure.
Well, give me some thoughts on this. And if you want to do a broody, a beautiful guy of recent times,
yes, please.
You got like Timothy Chalamet. He's the it guy as of late.
Yeah. Ah, fair enough. Yeah, that works. I don't see him do finance though, but yes.
Yeah, we can give him something else.
He's the good type of pretty. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's the good type of pretty? What does that mean?
Oh, I said broody, but also what you said was true.
Okay,
yes.
Okay.
I don't deny that other statement.
Cool. Okay. Last thing. This is all I want at the top of this. Again, this is a pitch meeting. You have to name the show.
Oh, yeah, right. I have to name the show? Okay.
You have to name the show.
Oh, but I hate that, though. I'm always bad at that.
Just give me a pitch. This is what earns you the millions. This is a real... We're going to put this on all the billboards.
Okay.
All the ads. Play it on YouTube videos, all that stuff.
I feel like this is... I almost get to like the title of the Thor movie. I think that Taika Waititi did, like the Love and Thunder one. Yeah. But that's like the rippiest ripoff of that because it's literally the title.
Yeah, right,
Maybe it should be like, I don't know, Static Storms and the
Static
Adventures of fill in 2 names. The sitcom. Done. Sold.
Okay, cool. Yeah, perfect. It shipped. It sells millions. You are brought to the red carpet. You
There's
get
like
to take
plushies.
pictures.
Yeah, we need to figure
with
out the
Amanda
animal sidekick,
Stenberg.
but yeah, we'll make this work. Yeah.
Animal sidekick, something that's good for college campuses, I suppose.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, it's a college thing now.
Fast forward time years, you're taking pictures with Timothée Chalamet and Amanda Stenberg.
I would not be against that. Yeah. That's
Perfect.
a good future prospects.
All right.
Amazing.
And with that, thank you for tuning in for our updates about plants and wallets, for talking about electric themed superheroes and the familiars along the way. Again, if you're ever interested in world building or storytelling, this is just a small piece of it, a small sample of what you could write in your own story.
The possibilities, people, they're endless.
Yeah, truly endless. But as you do, always remember.
Yeah, there's that one thing.
Your rivers are wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Very, very wrong.
Yeah.
Have a good one.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Your Rivers Are Wrong. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas for future episodes that you'd like to hear us cover, feel free to contact us at yourriversarewrong@gmail.com. Our intro and outro music is written by Maarten Schellekens. Thanks for that. And again, thank you so much for listening. We hope to see you at the next one.